So far, Phase 4 has been going the Star Trek routes. You get some good ones in this phase, you get some okay ones, you get some frustrating ones. Unfortunately, after sitting on this, yeah, this is one of those in the frustrating category. What's going on, everyone? It is Joshua, Future Filmmaker Reviews. If you guys are new to the channel, I talk movies, TV, music, and anime. If you guys like any one of those things, consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell, as well as all my social media links are in the description box down below. If you guys would like to be a part of the Epictasticness, to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, all that such, we're going to talk about Thor Love and Thunder. This is the 29th movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is a sequel to the first two Thor movies and Thor Ragnarok. This is the first MCU movie solo character to have more than 3 movies. This is directed by Taika Waititi, co-written by him and Jennifer Kaytin Robinson, stars Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Christian Bale, Tessa Thompson, Jaimie Alexander, Taika Waititi, Russell Crowe, Chris Pratt, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Karen Gillan. In Love and Thunder, Thor attempts to find inner peace, but he must return to action and recruit Valkyrie, Korg, and Jane Foster, Gorr the God Butcher, from destroying all gods. When this movie first came out, I was able to check it out a little earlier. I did record an earlier review of it, but I wanted to wait to see how I would process this movie. So that's why I held off on doing a review of this movie for a little bit. But now that I have sat on this movie and now that I have given this movie some time to think, I have to say, as you tell in the cold opening, like I said, Phase 4, this has been going the Star Trek route. There's a lot I like, some things I was okay on, some I'm frustrated with. I loved WandaVision, I loved Shang-Chi, Multiverse of Madness is great, No Way Home was amazing, and I really liked Ms. Marvel. Moon Knight was okay, I liked it and hated it. Black Widow was also okay, but also mainly the frustrating side of this phase has been Eternals and Hawkeye, which I don't hate those, but those were really frustrating, especially Eternals, considering the fact that it was supposed to be the big game changer of the MCU. I was excited when it came out, and I was excited when it was announced because we were gonna get some redemption with Natalie Portman, and I was very happy. After that, you had Christian Bale, who was going to play the villain of this. All that seemed like this was going to be a great movie, right? And then the trailers came out. While it felt a little bit too comedic, I still was willing to go on board with it. I have to come to the conclusion that this was quite a disappointment. Now, this movie is a bit of a mixed bag for me. I don't hate this movie. I don't love it. I know a lot of you guys really love it. I know a lot of people really don't like it. And I'm going to be as honest as I will, as I have with every other MCU movie and any other thing I've talked about here on this channel. The biggest positive for me is the cinematography. There is some gorgeous cinematography here. There are some amazing shots. You get some great landscapes of the worlds of Asgard that has been in. Even in the little action sequences, there's great cinematography. You can see what's going on. It's not shaky cam. It's not down your throat. I do love the way Taika Waititi shot this movie, and he gets some great looking shots, great looking effects for the most part. We'll get into some of these effects a little bit, but the effects here by Barry Idoine are very good. I do love that side of things, so I definitely have to give credit to that. I think the performances, once again, is strong. Natalie Portman, she's having the time of her life, and if this is the last we see of Lady Jane or Jane Foster in general, then this is not a bad way for her to go out. However, I don't like where they take the character. Now, I do like the ideas of the character being Lady Jane, of course. And I do say the performance was great. I can also say that Chris Hemsworth is still great in the role, as well as Thor. Yes, he's not the Thor that we know and love, which is another issue I will have when it comes to the writing side, but he's still the manly, badass Thor with some comedy. Tessa Thompson and Taika Waititi and all the rest of the cast, I think is really good here. And the biggest standout of this cast, besides Portman and Hemsworth, is Christian Bale. If this was an entirely different movie, if this movie was more on a darker tone, I think more of his scenes that he has here would definitely fit more here. Christian Bale, he's scary, he's villainous, he looks like Voldemort, which I like that idea because of me being a Harry Potter fan. Gorr the God Butcher, he's one of the best MCU villains, but there is a good problem with him. Great, amazing, and production design in this movie as well. Marvel will never fail to do that. And the musical score by Michael Giacchino is also very good. I can also say the direction and the action scenes, they are very well shot as well. There are some very great action sequences here, but the standout action sequence for me was this whole action scene that was entirely in black and white, and with colors sprinkled out to do it. It kind of gave me Sin City vibes in space. And also the tone, I do like the 80s Flash Gordon visual aesthetics. There were some interesting ideas that they play with, like Jane having cancer and then Gorr killing all gods because he's trying to bring back his daughter or reunite with his daughter. And Thor trying to find inner peace, even though we've done this already. And there were some jokes here that I actually didn't mind. And some more the emotional moments. When the movie is taken seriously in the emotional moments. I do love those. The mixed aspect here is the soundtrack. It's not a terrible soundtrack. Guns N' Roses, they're not bad, but I feel like some of their songs and movies can be a little overplayed. And does get to a point here where I feel like Guns N' Roses does overstay its welcome a little bit into the soundtrack. And while they're not bad songs, I do feel like one or two of these songs could have gone out in favor of a different type of song from the 80s or something, and you will not miss a single step. But that's really my only mixed problem there. Also, the CGI. Now, I know there's been some stuff going on with Marvel about the CGI, and I do feel like they should be getting paid extra and have way more time with these, especially with Phase 5 and 6 going forward, to have some more effects. And I do feel like Marvel needs to do better in paying their effects. But some effects here look really great. And then there are some effects here where it feels a little bit on the nose. That you can tell a little bit of it is a little unfinished, but a good majority of the visual effects, as far as practical effects, miniatures, and some CGI effects at the time, look pretty good. But there are some times where I feel like you could tell they need at least one more month, at least a couple more weeks to get that right. But those are my two mixed aspects here. As far as the positives mix goes, with those things being great, there's a lot of things in this movie that frustrates me. Now, this is a good story. Now, the movie is an hour and 59 minutes, and you could tell that there are some moments that got cut out by Taika Waititi, and he is say he doesn't believe in director's cuts, but there was a lot of scenes and a lot of character moments, especially scenes that with Christian Bale that they were going to be in the movie, but they cut a lot of those scenes out in the editing room floor. And I think this is much of Taika's doing to the one personal reason that I'm about to get into, which really does bring this movie down in some areas, is some of the overuse of his comedy.
You can't handle the truth!
Once again, there are some moments where I laughed. But once again, just like with Thor Ragnarok, unfortunately, he cranks the comedy way up to an 11. And that is one of my biggest problems when it comes to this movie, is over usage of comedy over story. Now, the comedy shouldn't be that much of a problem since the MCU is known for that. However, lately, in a few of these projects, and especially here with Taika Waititi writing the screenplay, the comedy is taken way too far in this movie. One of the things about Ragnarok that makes the comedy work previously is that despite it going for a new tone with Thor, it was still managed to have some very serious moments and treated Thor like a serious character while giving him some humor. However, this movie is just overloaded with comedy every 5 minutes to the point where it doesn't allow you to breathe, and it definitely just take me out of the story and out of the movie a lot, which is very disappointing to say. And one of the moments that does kill this movie for me, as far as some of the comedy goes, is one particular moment with Russell Crowe, who's very good as Zeus, which was in the trailer. That shit was overkill for me, and I felt like if Taika toned down most of its comedy in favor of a good story, I feel like this would be way better. Things would be much more fleshed out, much more streamlined. Because as much as I applaud Kevin Feige for letting his directors do what they want to do now, this is the one director I feel like needed to be restrained. And if this is what's gonna be of Thor 5, I don't really have that much excitement for it. Some of the more emotional moments, like Gorr's motivation for doing what he's doing, and Jane having cancer. The cancer, which is one of the biggest things you should be giving more emotional weight to, especially the fact with Peter Quill, when he lost his mom, which is a big waste of potential with him saying, I have a mother who's dealing with the same thing what Jane does. She died of cancer. That should have been an emotional crux. That should have been one of your biggest emotional moments. But no, because Taika decides, let's not care about anything dramatic like cancer or gods killing gods, let's make it into a freaking parody, it loses a lot of that emotional vibrancy to it, and it just doesn't work. And the tone at times with the comedy and the darkness is all over the place. I felt like this movie should have just went straight on serious. With a character like Gorr the God Butcher trying to kill everyone, that's the tone you should have went for. You could still have some comedy here, especially with the romantic comedy side of Thor and Jane, which I think is amazingly well done at times. But I feel like some of this comedy just undercuts a lot of this movie's emotional weight, and I don't like that decision in this movie. I just don't. I wish the movie had a little bit more streamlined restraints with some of the comedy. Take out some of the comedy, put a lot of Christian Bale's scenes of him killing people in a more serious, and this wouldn't be a much better movie. The first 25 minutes being a little bit rocky, even though I don't mind the pacing here, there could have been a lot more extra scenes here, because this movie's only an hour and 59 minutes. I could tell this was one of the longer ones. I know some people have a problem with Multiverse of Madness being as short as it was, and while that definitely could have used an extra 20 to 30 minutes, like 2 hours and 36 minutes, 2 hours and 28 minutes, I still very much love that movie, and the movie knew the tone it was going for, and that's what saves it from being one of the weakest for me and being my favorite MCU film. When it comes to this it just puts a lot of the comedy in this movie, and a lot of scenes in this movie are a lot of moments here that should have been here are very undercut. Like I said, I'm not sure if this was Taika Waititi doing this, but if it is, then that is a shame, because with a character like Gorr the God Butcher and with a lot of heavy themes, this should have been the most serious next to the first movie. Even like, I don't mind some comedy in here, but some of the comedy needed to be removed completely, especially that scene with Zeus. And my biggest final negative here is I don't like some of the way these characters are treated. Jaimie Alexander is Sif, a character who has been very important in these MCU movies, especially on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was very excited to see her come back, because I was a hell of a pissed that she did not come back in Thor Ragnarok or Infinity War Endgame. I get it, they didn't want to kill her off, she was doing Blind Spot at the time, but that was a big disappointment. So You get her in this movie. I loved what she had to do in the first two Thor movies, and her episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were really great. But once again, they commit the stupidest decision of not giving her more to do. She's in this movie just to get almost nearly killed by Gorr the God Butcher. And I'm just going to say right now, if you're not going to give her anything to do in the next Thor movie, especially where things are going now, then I don't think she needs to come back. I think you just need to kill the character off completely. It's my biggest character pet peeve in this movie is what they do with Natalie Portman. This movie's been out for a month now. I'm just gonna say it. She dies at the hands of cancer. I know this was in the comics, so I will give you credit for that. And it had me emotional. I just feel like the way it goes about it, there should have been a little bit more time before this happens. Now, when it happens, I was emotional, but I just don't like the way it was rushed. Like I said, Taika should have just kept a lot of the scenes, Gorr the God Butcher and stuff in that would have made this movie flow much better and traded a lot of the comedy. This is what happens when you let Taika Waititi write his own superhero movies. He can do comedy very well and stuff like What We Do in the Shadows and Jojo Rabbit, but not for an MCU movie. I feel like someone else really needs to keep an eye on him and write this stuff for him. Thor Love and Thunder. This is not a movie I hate in the MCU, and while I don't love this movie as much as I should have, there's a lot of great moments here. There's a lot of entertaining moments. I do like what it was trying to do. I like a lot of the action. I like the performances. I like some interesting ideas in the story. I like some of the themes it's going for. But with a very underutilized character that should have way more scenes, some moments of comedy that needed to be traded out for more seriousness stuff, and with some of the humor with Thor and some of the comedy here needed to be more restrained next time. I hope the next Thor movie goes back to his roots. We need to get back to how he was in the first two movies while still keeping some comedy. This is a movie where the more I think about it, the more frustrated I become with it. Not because of Natalie Portman, not because of the characters, not because of anything. It's just I wish this movie was a little bit better. Do I hate this movie? No. I know Taika Waititi is nuts, but the fact that Taika Waititi feels like comedy is better over a good story with this movie, that is the movie's biggest downfall. One of my least favorite films in the MCU is not Eternals, but is definitely in the lower tier of the MCU, and it's definitely my second weakest of Phase 4. I would say wait till it comes out on Disney Plus. Make up your mind if you love the first three Thor movies. If you like Taika Waititi's style, you will enjoy this. But if not, this is not going to be the movie for you. I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Taika Waititi, but I don't hate this movie. I just wish the comedy was toned way down mercifully. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys like what you see here, be sure to subscribe to my channel right here. I have plenty more content as far as movies, TV, and anime and music goes. I will also leave a playlist here and something here if you guys want to check out what I'm about. Join the Epictasticness, stay epitastic, and you guys keep it cool.